Welcome back to the Top 6 show. Hit the like button. Make sure you are subscribing. So much to talk about on this evening, or this afternoon in this evening's show. Arsenal out of the Champions League. We're talking about the Europa League final. Will it be the all-English one we predict, or could there be a sting in the towel? And we've mentioned Arsenal going out the Champions League. We're dissecting it. We're looking at Arteta's future, but also the top 4 or top 5 race this season. Who's going to make those Champions League positions? Will Villa, will Nottingham Forest do it? Could Arsenal, after last night's disappointment, be dragged out of it? All that and much more. Plus, I'm facing legal charges tonight. And if you want to cook me, feel free to. If you want to cook Arsenal, feel free to. The Football Terrace, the first No Echo Chambers fan channel that ever existed. So there we go. Got a great panel for you tonight. I'm going to have to look down at my monitor here, though, because I'm in a different room today. We've got Tom Little in the house. We've got Josh backing Villa. Got man like Wolfie here, the Nottingham Forest fan. We've got Andrew Barnes, Spurs. Gow is back with us by popular demand and making his debut tonight on the Football Terrace. Very proud to have D here from Fan Zone TV. How are you, gentlemen? You all good and well?
All good.
Can be better after yesterday.
Very good. I enjoyed a wonderful week of Champions League football, to be fair. Let's not forget the Barca Inter game. That was brilliant for the footballing level. And then yesterday was brilliant for the hate wash level.
Yeah, well, it's been a great week. I'm not going to lie. As not having a team involved, it's been a great week. Just got to hope now Paris Saint-Germain seal the deal. We don't see Inter Milan on 4. Plus, I do want to see a Judge Mo meltdown in the final rather than celebration, because his meltdowns are better than his celebrations, to be fair.
Roller coaster ride. Oh, my God. Hilarious.
Exactly. And D, welcome, mate. Welcome to the Football Terrace. Been a long time coming, but really, really good to have you here, mate.
Love for having me, bro, man. Love for having me, sir. I like the fact that I come on just after the PSG instead of the Real Madrid win, you know what I'm saying? Like,
well, I said, me and KJ have said recently we want to get more. The way the Top 6 show works is kind of different from other panel shows where we kind of rotate the panel every week. We always have done. And I was like, KJ, we've got to get some fresh faces on. And today seemed like a really good day. For one reason or another, felt like a really good day.
I appreciate it.
To the Football Terrace community. Absolutely. So viewers, get the like button, hit. Make sure you are subscribing if you haven't done so already. And look, normally we leave the bigger subjects till last on the Top 6 show, but we have to start with last night and the fallout from it. Arsenal season ending trophyless again. And I suppose the question is, what next, really? But before we get on to that, we will speak to we'll go to D first as a Gooner, because we obviously heard from Miguel last night. But what are your thoughts today? Sort of 24 hours later after going out, where's your head at with the performance last night and what you do moving forward?
I feel like a lot of the meltdowns online and obviously around the football community is not so much about yesterday. I think it's more about the previous years. And I think what it comes down to really and truly is, like, as a top club, we're the only top club that's probably got gaps in our history that other clubs don't have. So things like we haven't won the Champions League, things like we've never retained the title before. We're the only top club that's probably not got any solidified world-class players. All of our players are debatable world-class, a lot of them not. You know what I mean? Every other top club like Man City and even Liverpool, Salah, Man City, Rodri, Barcelona, Real Madrid, they've all got top players that everyone knows, yeah, that's world-class, that's world-class, that's world-class. Arsenal's the only club that everything's debatable. I feel, obviously I'm still Arteta in, but I don't feel like the meltdown is so much about yesterday, because we had a good game yesterday. We played well. It just shows the lack of what we actually need. I think Arteta obviously is a new manager, he's still learning, but I think it's clear that sometimes when you've got structure and he's got a good structure at the team, but there's certain things that can break structure. When the structure's not working, you need something that can just break it. Something that you have to count on when the chips are down, and we don't have any of that. I think that's what the main issue is. So I understand the meltdown that people are having, but I think it's the previous years. I don't think it's so much about right now and yesterday. Personally, I think it's the years gone by.
D, why are you still Arteta in?
Go on.
Well, the first thing is, when I go to games and I see him, I can still see how fanatic he is. You see me, I'm a person that I want you to feel how I'm feeling. So I still feel that he's got that fire, that passion, that because in any other season, a semi-final of a Champions League wouldn't be a bad season. It's only because of the previous years why you're not picking up trophies along the way. Do you know what I'm saying? I think if he was picking up trophies along the way, people would be like, okay, yeah, you've had a good season, but it's because we've not won anything for 5 years. Everyone's like, oh, in the Champions League or not. So I think it's more the fact that I feel like he can still get the job done over time. He's still a new manager, isn't it? So it's just about whether you compare him to the top managers or whether you compare him to the rookies. He's an apprentice, isn't he?
I don't know many 6-year-long apprenticeships, to be fair.
But that's what it is. This is the facts of it. He's still an apprentice, isn't he? He's not a. You have to remember as well. A lot of Arsenal fans, what they like to do, they don't like to actually deal with the facts, and the facts are sometimes other managers can be better than your manager. Like other managers, Slot might be better than Arteta. It might be acceptable to. There are people that are better than other managers. This is a fact. But people don't really like to.
That's got to be that's probably where the gripe is this year, though, in the sense of for the last 2 years, all I was told from Arsenal fans when he ran it close and didn't get there was, just wait for the City fall off. We'll be there when the City fall off happens. It'll be our title when City drop off. City dropped off in a way that we hadn't seen before, and yet it weren't your title, and it's quite comfortably not your title. It was a whimper of a fight, and regardless of injuries, because you've had injuries, regardless of form or whatever, when's this coming? How long can Arsenal sit there, spend hundreds of millions of pounds, go out of competitions in new ways every time? You know, you ran out of. I mean, yesterday was the first time you scored in the semi-final, like 7 attempts. So
yeah, I think it's more to do with now. Well, like I like to say Arteta's now he's lost his privileges and he's in overdraft. So what I mean by that is now, you know, like you have a lot of faith in managers and you be like, oh, you sign this guy, let me see what you can see, if you can see something that I can't see, and then maybe they come good, like Havertz signing, for example. A lot of people are like, oh, I don't like that signing, but he's okay, stuff like that. You see, now I think he's lost that right to sign players and let Arteta do his job. I think it's now what the players, if you sign a player, I also have to believe that you're signing the right player. That's where I'm at. So this summer, for example, sign players that I believe are the right players for that position. If you don't, you have to win it that year.
So where's your cutoff, D? Where's your cutoff of Arteta?
I just told you, if we go into the summer this year and he signs the players that he doesn't sign players that I need him to sign, he has to win it that year. So the next year.
So you're saying this time next year, if he hasn't won, what are we talking? Any trophy or a major? Where are we with this? Could he win a Carabao Cup and stink out the league? Would that be okay?
It's a trophy, isn't it? I mean, I want the league. In an ideal world, I would want the league, but I can't knock any trophy currently because we have not won any for 5 years. So you can't be knocking trophies currently. But in an ideal world, I'd have the league. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, but I'm saying, what is the cutoff? Is that okay then next year? A League Cup, no league, no major, maybe finish 4th or something? You're happy?
Not finishing 4th. No, not finishing 4th.
Wolfie, it's very simple. Arteta no longer has excuses on why he can have another season. I think we need to go and address the striker position. We need to go and address the attack. Once we address the attack this summer, there's no more excuses. He's sorted out his defense. He's sorted out his midfield. The attack is the final piece to the puzzle. If you've waited this long to sort out your attack and then you have other problem areas, that's on you. The reality is
we haven't sorted out the midfield.
No, I'm saying for the longest time, the attack has been the main issue. The midfield was relatively decent with Declan Rice, Partey, and Odegaard. The defense has been solid with Gabriel, Saliba, and Raya. The main thing that's always been the issue has been finishing, and in the final third, not having that clinical edge. Think about it. Majority of the draws this season is not down to our defense or our midfield. It's down to us not being able to finish games off. The semi-final.
Yeah, but I feel like that's getting too technical. I feel like sometimes we get very technical with football, and we don't have to be that technical. I feel like the facts are he's gone 5 years, no trophies. I think that is what on paper. That's what it says. And I think that's what we've got to address, regardless of whether or not the strikers work in the midfielders not working the defense. I don't think that really matters because Liverpool, if you look at Liverpool, no one thought they had the best defense. They don't have the best attack and they don't have the best midfield overall. They made it work You know what I'm saying? We had the best defense technically. There's other attacks that we said it's just Salah in the Liverpool attack, but they've made it work. Are you gonna disagree with that, or?
I'm confused. Are you saying something different from what I'm saying? We're saying the same thing.
No, because you're saying that he needs to just sort that the attack. That's what I'm saying. But I don't. That's not what it is. I think it's more about just trophies. I don't think it's so much about what you can and can't sort out. I think we've gone past, because if he sorts out the attack, for example, this summer and still doesn't win a trophy, people still say they want him out.
100%. But they come hand in hand. That's my point.
Well,
The reason.
Question I have, sorry, a question I want to ask, and I'll throw this to the rivals first of all, because this is what I'm intrigued to know. What does Arteta have to win next season for you not to? There's always going to be banter, so I'm not saying you can't banter, but what would he have to win next season for you to go fair play? So put the question back to the rivals. What does he have to do for you to go fair play?
Major.
One of the big two.
He's run out of rope.
It's got to be one of the big two. I mean, again, if you're looking at it logically with this situation, with what the next season's going to look like, City, they're going through a major overhaul. It could all of a sudden they could just kick into gear and be back to their 100-point levels. But I think it's more realistic that all these signs coming, it's going to take at least a year to bed in properly. So that door of City dominance, it's going to stay open for at least another year. We're going through an overhaul as well. We've just lost Alexander-Arnold. We're looking to move on a number of players, and according to the man himself, Arsenal are a better team, have better players than our own. So you should be ahead of us next year when it comes to that. I think the big thing that Arsenal needs to do next year to actually get over the line is fix their mentality. That mentality again, and whether it's a club thing, whether it's a fan base thing, I don't know. But the amount of times this season Arsenal have been in big positions, have been in commanding positions, have been in semi-final, have been in these big games, and they've acted like they've never been there before. They've made a lot out of it. Yeah, I think Arsenal need to accept that the size of the club they are and own what they are. You need to embrace the fact you're a big club if you want to start winning big club honours. Because right now, I think you're in this middle ground.
I personally don't agree with that whole mentality stuff because I think it's bullshit. I think the reality situation is if you have confidence in your attack and you have quality attacking players, you finish the chances that we've had this season. I don't think it's mentality that Kai Havertz is missing clear open goals versus Newcastle in semifinals. I don't think it's that mentality. The reason why Saka missed yesterday, the second chance that he had. I think it's just sometimes people are not clinical, and it gets to a point where you have to look at the quality that you have, and some of these guys cannot execute to the same level as some of the other players that we're looking at. PSG, Dembele, clinical. Fabian Ruiz, his shot, amazing. Hakimi, the same thing. Our players just don't have that cutting edge.
Miguel, that's disingenuous, man.
Yeah,
PSG missed so many chances. They do. They missed loads against Liverpool, loads against you in the first leg. The difference is they create enough that eventually they get through, and their mentality under their manager is a lot better because he's installed it into them. So you can't say Dembele clinical. He's not. He scores a lot, but he misses a lot as well. That's the difference. You're trying to single this down to a Saka moment, missing an open goal. That's not the problem. The problem is the mentality, and it comes from your manager.
No, but I
disagree.
agree.
I don't think it's about mentality.
No, but I also wanted to answer Terry's question and also address what Dee said, is that I think Arteta needs to win the league, because any other trophies, it'll be nice for an Arsenal fan, but the league has to be like the trophy he needs to get, because it was the trophy that he was closest to, let's say, because they were close behind City and they were close behind Liverpool this season. They should have won it. Second thing is that I get what you were saying, Dee, that you sort of empathize with him because of the way he reacts in games when you're not doing so well. But Mourinho was like that for Chelsea. He was like that for us. He was that passionate sort of manager. The moment he was not doing well, he was out the club. That's why we keep winning the trophies that we won in that time, in that Abramovich era. Because if the manager was not up to the mark, even though he was a good manager, he was out. Sometimes it's frustrating as a club, as frustrating as fans to see like a good manager go, like when Tuchel went. But they are constantly trying to make sure that they win something.
But it's a little bit different when we compare it to Roman's Chelsea when he bought 4 strikers whenever he needed a forward. Like, it's a little bit different from the situation we find ourselves in.
I hear that. I don't want to go off a really good point that Wolfie brought up about mentality. I want to get Wolfie and Josh's view on this. When you say it's mentality and it's not about buying better players, what is it that Arteta is or isn't doing that's damaging the mentality, in your opinion?
But for me personally, I think he thinks too much of himself. His arrogance comes across in his interviews. For him to sit there yesterday and talk about Arsenal being the best team in the competition is quite frankly embarrassing. To say things like over my dead body, that Liverpool were lucky to win it this year, Arsenal would have won it with the points tally or whatever he said. He's got serious delusions about how good he is. And saying things like that shows you his mentality. He thinks he is better than he is as a manager. He's an apprentice at the end of the day. This is his first job. He was the assistant to Pep. That's his CV. And he's had 5 years, £750 million spent on this Arsenal team, and he spent it in the wrong places. Everyone talks about the culture change he made, getting rid of likes of Aubameyang, Lacazette, whoever else. Fine. But where were the replacements? You don't just get rid of your goals and then replace it with nothing. You replace it with the midfielder that you're converting up to a striker. That's the problem with it. And that mentality of him thinking he is so much bigger than he is clearly feeding into the players, telling them they're much better than they actually are. And then you build it up into this crescendo once you've beaten Real Madrid that you've almost won the tournament just by beating Real Madrid. And I've seen Arsenal fans trying to pick who they want in the final between Milan and Barca. That's the problem with the mentality.
I think you're confusing arrogance with charisma. Maybe he doesn't have the charisma of other managers when he portrays his messaging, but I do think Arteta is not coming out. He's not doing this out of sheer arrogance. He's giving you guys his personal opinions, but the way that he speaks, he's not as charismatic as a Klopp. He's not as charismatic as a Pep.
So it's not arrogant to say you were the best team in the Champions League.
No,
Yeah, that was not cool.
That's his opinion. A manager can give his opinion after a loss. Maybe
But that's delusional. No, but
It's
Igal, that's
incredible.
delusional.
I think at that point, I think the timing of it is probably bad. The timing of it. I think there's no. I think the timing of it. Certain things that he'll say at time, but I think that comes with experience as well. I think, it's like we're killing him for being not a top manager. For we're putting him in the bracket that he's not in. And so all of these things come with controlling the media and stuff like that. That all comes with experience.
He's creating talking points that he doesn't need to. If he came out yesterday and said, fair play, PSG, the better team won, I wish them all the best, and just shut up, we wouldn't be talking about it right now.
I agree.
What he's talking about, I understand. He's talking about the fact that we created more than enough chances to win the tie.
Yeah, but they were better than us. They were better than us.
No, but he's coming out and doing interviews.
Better than us. It was
over the 2 legs. They were better than us.
He's coming out and doing interviews saying that the PSG bench told me we were better than them, and then he's coming out and going, no, we didn't. So he's making stuff up.
Enrique doesn't know every conversation he had with the players, so he can't say something.
Yeah, but do you think that we were better than PSG over the 2 legs?
I genuinely think it was small margins, and the difference between the 2 legs is the first couple minutes where they scored their goal at our ground, and when we were at their ground and we had a chance to score 3 goals, we couldn't capitalize. The beginnings of the 2 games perfectly explain everything that's gone on.
Let's go to
Igal, the performance.
Guys, I want to go to try and keep some control on this. I want to go to Josh. Josh has been waiting for about 5 minutes to speak. What do you want to say, Josh?
So here's my take. I'm with Wolfie on the mentality issue. I've questioned Igal over this before. Why do I look at the mentality issue? Well, I go back to these sort of Amazon Prime documentaries, right? I think they're a massive thing. I think they've inflated a PR of a manager and an ego boost of a manager. If you go back and watch that All or Nothing thing, it's all about Arteta. It's all about his team talks. It's all about what he does with these speakers when they prepare for Anfield. And for me, that was a very eccentric sort of thing. Jose Mourinho, when he was at Tottenham, when you look at that documentary, it was all about Mourinho, and we know that's Mourinho. But I look at that Arsenal team yesterday, and I sat there and they didn't believe that they were going to score yesterday. No matter how many chances they created, there was that I kept saying, and I'll tell you why there's a lack of belief, because you look at the number 9 on the pitch, and as a footballer, you know, if you've played football, no matter your team, there will be a player, whether he played Sunday League or top league. You know who your weak link is in the team. You knew sometimes that when you're going out on that pitch for your strongest 11, you go, do you know what, we're winning today. When you're going out on that part of the Prince pitch and you see Moreno as your number 9, and you know you've got to come from 1 down and you go 2 down, your head's drop. You know that's game over. And that is a mentality thing. I think the mentality as well I want to question is, why does Arteta hold on? Why does Arteta also believe that he is better at coaching than any other manager? He is almost that arrogant that he has believed he could transform Kai Havertz from an 8 to a 9. He feels like he didn't need to sign a 9. He feels like and as Arsenal fans and the top ones will call it out, will say Arteta has final say on the transfers. Well, that guy clearly believed he didn't need a 9 in January, which was a big downfall for me. So I think there's a mentality there of maybe he's overinflated the hype of his players. Maybe he's overinflated the hype of himself. But I think there is a degree there where it is yesterday a little bit of arrogance and the PR. From an Aston Villa perspective, the thing that probably frustrates me the most is, and panel, some of you have been on me, and Terry, this point for me is massive, is that I get constantly told about Unai Emery. I get a lot of talk from Arsenal fans. We've told you about this man. We've told you that he's a failure. Well, I find it very interesting that Arsenal fans come to me about Unai Emery and he can't multitask, he can't win trophies, he won't be that man. How can an Arsenal fan sit there and come to me over a man who has had 5 years, 750 million as Wolfie pulled out, and imagine if Unai Emery got that time. Imagine if Unai Emery got that money. Imagine. Yeah. Because how can they defend Arteta the way they do? And fair play. Do you know what? I absolutely respect people who've been consistent in defending your manager and going to them. That's why, Dean Egal, I respect you that you're still sort of sat here. You've given this guy and you've gone from the start. But how can Unai Emery not get the same treatment from the Arsenal fan base when he pulled out miracles with a really poor squad?
And his CV's better, Josh. His CV's better. He's got credit.
And yet I'm here and I'm just thinking, how has Arteta pulled off this incredible PR stunt now for 5 years? How has he managed to buy another year?
PR stunt because we were challenging for the league.
He said two things. Number one, Unai Emery lost the respect of the entire team. He was getting mocked.
Why?
And he
because
lost
of his language barrier. Because of his language.
He lost the dressing room. Once you lose respect from your whole dressing room, it's over. It got to the point where fans were not showing up in droves. There was empty stadiums in the Premier League and in the Europa League games, and that was the final straw for the owners. Now, if you want to
talk empty against Bournemouth the other day,
if you want to talk about Arteta, the first thing he did was rebuild the connection with the fans and the players. As much as people want to hate on Arteta, this is the most invested a lot of people, even the most pessimistic fans, have been with the team. The difference between Arteta and Unai Emery, let's be 100%. He has a longer rap sheet, CV. He's worked with many more clubs. Mikel Arteta's come short in a couple title races, and he's come short with Arsenal from winning the major honors. And we're judging him based off a 5-year career. We're judging Unai Emery based off of a 10+ year career. It's different.
Why does he get more money? Why does he get more? This is where I'm trying to get my head around. So, your point. Why does Arteta get 750 million off a gamble? Let's call it a gamble because that's what you both saying. It's an apprentice.
Understand that
there can't be because hold on because you've just told me Unai Emery has a rap sheet, he has a CV. So let's think about a normal job. You've got 2 employees, right? You've got someone who's just fresh out of university and he's going for a top job and he's got potential, and you go bish bash bosh. Do you take a gamble on him? It may work, it may not. Or you take someone who's been in the industry for 10 years, has gone, I've got success in this field, I have got success, give me the right tools and I'll bring you success. That's what Unai Emery and Arteta is. Why does he not? That's where I'm confused.
Let me answer.
Unai Emery got a record transfer fee in Nicolas Pepe. Unai Emery got money. He just wasn't there.
Not his player. Not his player. He wanted Zaha. He wanted Zaha.
He just wasn't there as long as Arteta. Number one. Number two, the process of how Arsenal function as a club changed in the time that Unai Emery was there to Arteta. There was a takeover. The club has been fully taken over by the Cronkies, and they started investing more money in the club, and they needed to invest more money in the club to get us caught up to the levels of other teams. And we've relatively caught up because we have a decent squad now. But it took that investment to catch up. And don't forget, the money that Unai Emery spent in his second season was around 160 million euros or 160 million pounds. That is.
Didn't that win you the FA Cup? Didn't that win you the FA Cup?
That was back in 2019, right? 2019 summer, January. That's how much money they spent. Since then, we've only had 2 transfer windows that have spent more money than that. So when we talk about investments, there's only been 2 transfer windows that spent more money than Unai Emery's highest transfer.
Well, you spent 0 in the others, did you, Agal?
No. In the other, that was his first season. He came in. It wasn't really his transfers. You know what I mean?
No, but Igal, I have a question. So now, are you asking?
I just want to make it clear. When we talk about investment, Unai Emery got pretty much the exact same investment. He just didn't have the exact same amount of years as Arsenal, as Arteta did.
No, but that's what I'm asking. Are you Arteta in or are you Arteta out? Like, what is it? Because I know that
I'm surprised you're asking me this question. I've not said anything negative about Arteta the whole stream. Clearly, I'm Arteta.
No. Why I'm asking you that is that, like, normally with anything, okay, in any project, in any company, like, okay, this is football we're talking about. There is somebody, like, I can see in the super chats also they're mentioning Arteta has improved this team, right? There are some people who can go from 0 to 80%, but to take it from 80 to 100%, you need a closer. You sometimes need somebody like that. So are Arsenal fans not open to that? Not open to saying, okay, Arteta did a good job so far, but it's time, like we can see in the last 5 years, he's a
progressive manager. That's what he is. He's not a winner.
The problem.
It's a great. So I just want to jump in for a second on a few bits and pieces just to tidy up. I don't often like a conversation to end and a new one start without kind of. Josh, I like a lot of what you said and the challenges there. My only question for you is on consistency here. So when you guys finished 7th in the 2022-23 season, you congratulated Unai Emery for that, right?
What, when we qualified for the Conference League? Yeah.
That's my only issue with the analysis you're giving is you're taking Arteta's FA Cup away and saying, well, that was Unai Emery's team, but you're not turning around and taking credit for Unai Emery and saying, well, that was Gerrard's team. And there was only about 3 to 4 weeks difference in when one was sacked and the other one was replaced. That's my only issue with the analysis. You also said Pepe wasn't Unai Emery's player. I think Arteta has made some terrible decisions on signings in recent times, but they have also missed out on players they wanted as well. So for me, I don't disagree that mentality's got to improve. I don't disagree that they need better players. I think that's the biggest elephant in the room that seems to be getting ignored. It's all kind of about shit on Arteta and he needs criticism. I actually think it's more about they need better than Odegaard, they need better than Martinelli, they need better than Kai Havertz, they need better than Marino, they need better midfielders technically on the ball. They need someone that will either be a real backup to Saka or challenge him for his position. I think that's a much bigger talking point. Arteta definitely needs criticism. The problem is you could label that every manager misses out on target. So if you're going to defend Unai Emery with it, you've got to defend Arteta with it. If you're going to take away credit from something Arteta has won when he comes in mid-season, the reason I don't do it, because I am not giving Ten Hag credit if Ruben Amorim manages to win the Europa League this year. I won't do it. So I'm just trying not to be hypocritical in that way. I do think you make some great points. What he said last night, Mikel Arteta, about being the best team in it. Someone on the PSG bench may very well have said that. It's a bit like when you hear Fergie go, oh yeah, listen, what Wenger did with the Invincibles is better than anything I did. Sometimes people say things in a very humble moment. You know, I've been around some really high-level YouTubers who will say to YouTubers less followers, I love what you do. I wish I could do stuff like that. It doesn't mean they think you're better than them. They're being humble for it. They know with their 5 million followers, they're better than you, right? They're just being humble. I think that was a mistake from Mikel Arteta because what it appears like on the outside is he's taking no accountability. And football fans have got a big hard-on at the moment for taking accountability. Behind the scenes, you might have taken accountability. You might have ripped into the players. You might be sitting there with Berta today saying, I need better. I think he's got he said the wrong thing. It's rattled fans more. If he would have come out yesterday and just said, we've just been beaten by a brilliant team, We've got things we can learn from them. There's things we need to improve on. I think that would have encouraged a lot of the Arsenal fans. Forget the ones who have always hated him, that always want him out. He literally, he could, no matter what he does, they're going to hate him. Even, by the way, if he wins the Champions League next year, it will be, yeah, but it took 6 years. So forget their opinions to a certain degree, because they're not here to have a conversation. They're here just to, they need to be right. So don't worry about them. But I think what Arteta did really wrong last night from a fan relationship point of view was not take that accountability publicly. He probably shouldn't have said anything. But then again, it was emotional. But for me, I get the mentality around my bit off by just saying Arsenal need better players. And what I mean by that is this: they got rid of a load of dross they had. They've become title contenders. They've become a very good team. But to get to that elite bracket where you win the Prem, where you win the Champions League, I think we've seen evidence in the last 3 seasons that certain individuals, Odegaard being one of them as an example, Martinelli being another, they just need better than those players. And I think every Arsenal fan with their hand on their heart knows this. They just need better players. Because as much as the mentality might be an issue, does that game go differently if Kvaratskhelia is an Arsenal player and Martinelli is a PSG player? Listen, I think Ray is a good goalkeeper. I think Donnarumma is better. And that isn't making it, some will say that's an excuse for Arsenal. I don't think it is. It's not an excuse, but typically speaking, the team with the better players wins games, right? And I just think Arsenal have to buy this summer better players. And look, they're sticking with their manager. So if they're sticking with him, the only solution to make them better is better players, because I agree with what you've all said. He's not turning Kai Havertz into Haaland. He is not turning Miko Moreno into Rodri. He's not doing that. So they've got to buy better for me.
But Terry, just 1 second. Just 1 second. I just want to address his point. I just want to address his point, Terry's point. Terry, the thing is, you're saying they need better players. Like, I agree with what Wolfie said, the mentality thing, because Chelsea won the Champions League with Havertz as their striker, Timo Werner on the left, Mason Mount in the middle. Okay, this Arsenal team is better than that Chelsea team. This Arsenal team has better players than that Chelsea team. Okay, so if there was a different manager with a mentality like Inzaghi or Enrique, they could have won something from this because they came so close.
I understand that. The only slight issue I have with what you're saying on an argument level is I'm not boiling it down to losing last night. I've just said when you look at the last 3 seasons, you look at missing out on the titles 2 years running, falling off earlier this year. I think if Arsenal won the Premier League last year, if they were 2 times Premier League champions and then lost that semi-final, this conversation wouldn't even be happening. The point I'm making is I don't think anyone who wants Arteta gone, it can't be solely on last night. Anyone who's backing him can't just be, well, we've got to
I'm
the
not
semi-final.
saying that. I agree that it's over the last.
I'm just trying to specify my point here. So if you're someone that's saying, I don't care about the league form, we got to a semi-final, that's a good enough reason to back him, I think that's too delusional. You've got to look at the wider picture here. And look, I'm not even against the idea of getting rid of him. I'm an Arsenal fan, but if they can bring in someone better, most people can't name a manager that's attainable that's better, really. They have to go very quiet in those circumstances. But for me, better players is probably the best option for them. They really have shown they've got very good players. And I think, as you said, D, they need to go out and get some of those players that are maybe more certified as world class. You know, someone like a Gyökeres, someone like a Zubimendi. If they come to Arsenal as an example and deliver for you like they've done for their previous clubs, there'll be no debate about their levels. I think that's what is now needed for Arsenal, especially with Arteta staying. Like, he is going to stay, right? He's 100% going to stay.
Just look at the PSG team that we played at the Emirates earlier this season without Kvaratskhelia to the team that they are now. That one player has added a different dynamic to their team to a level where they're now blitzing the Champions League and they're about to go and they're in a final. They could potentially win it. Without Kvaratskhelia, they don't do this. That one player has made that big of a difference in their attack.
Yeah, but the problem is, Igal, you're twisting what you were saying before the match when you said you beat them 2-0 without Kvaratskhelia, and they've only added him to be the change, and he's not going to make that much difference. You can't swing it both ways.
No, I was wrong, and now it shows you. And now that I've been proven wrong,
using your argument in reverse.
No, but Wolfie, I've been educated by the result and what has happened over the 2 legs, and now that I've seen it with my own eyes, I can tell.
Enrique is a better manager as well. This is one thing that
yeah,
can't
exactly.
He is a higher level manager. And again,
Enrique did not out-tactic him though.
Sorry,
Enrique did not tactically outclass Arteta over the two
He
legs.
didn't need to. He didn't need to.
It was individual brilliance that won them the tie.
Yeah, I understand. It wasn't individual.
It wasn't really though, was it? In the first, the same way we say that we could have been a few goals up in the second leg, they could have been 3-0 up in the first leg, in the first 15 minutes. We could have been out the tie in the first leg.
I'm looking at the actual finishes and the quality of the goals.
Yeah, but that's what suits your argument.
Exactly.
That's down
to say Kvaratskhelia. Yeah, but one sec. To say Kvaratskhelia is the difference as well. The difference is not that Kvaratskhelia is the difference. The difference is that they went and bought him in January. That's the difference.
Yes.
We needed to go and buy someone in January, which would have potentially made a difference, because we're getting up to the latter stages of the Champions League, and we're still in the title race. It's now that you have to buy the players, not next season. It's now that we need these players. We're in it now. So that's what the issue is. The issue isn't so much they got Kvaratskhelia and we don't. It's when they bought him.
Yeah, I agree.
That's also the style of play.
If you're talking about tactically outclassing as well, I'm going to be harsh on Arteta here. When I look at the way chances were created, especially in that second leg, Arsenal's chances were created through second balls offset up until the last 20 minutes. I'll say up until the last 20 minutes after you conceded the second, chances were mainly created off set pieces, either the long throws, which are causing them a lot of problems, corners, or deep crosses that were being put into the box. I weren't seeing Arsenal drag PSG out and play through them. Whereas PSG, they knew their game plan across both legs. They were going there to keep their wingers high and wide, attack the fullbacks one-on-one, go direct if necessary, which is why there were large parts across both legs where PSG, I don't know the possession stats for sure, but I'm pretty sure Arsenal probably had the more possession across both legs. But that suited PSG's tactical setup down to a T, because Enrique figured out how he wanted to beat Arsenal, figured out how he wanted to play through them, and played through them. Arsenal, I'd say 25 minutes in the first leg, where Martinelli ran through on goal and then Trossard ran through on goal, and for that period of time, I had them pinned back. That was the only 25 minutes across both legs where I thought, you know what, Arsenal are ripping PSG apart here. Outside of that, I'd say for at least 45, 50, maybe even 60 minutes of the two legs, PSG just kept getting you where they wanted you to get, where they wanted them to get you, which is why they started the first leg so well. They ended the first leg so well. The moment they scored in the first leg, the next 15, 20 minutes was all PSG. And if Bradley Barcola would shoot, it's 2-0. Then the second half starts.
Arsenal had 10 minutes yesterday at the start.
Either side of the goal. They're dominating again. They win the penalty. They're causing the problems.
I think as well for for Luis Enrique, where he deserves so much credit. And this has nothing to do with Arsenal for a moment. This is about PSG. This is his second season, if I'm not mistaken, right? Second season.
Yes.
If you look at them at the beginning of this, last year they were still clearing out some of the kind of Galactico-esque players they signed, implementing a style. The beginning of this season, they didn't look that great. How you know he is such a world-class coach is it took a little bit of time into this season, but they've got progressively better and better. And I ended up watching quite a lot of them over December and January, more so because I was watching Mendes because Man United were linked for him. So I started watching them. And before they played Liverpool, the amount of people going, oh, Arsenal outclassed them and slapped them. There's absolutely nothing that Liverpool going to batter them. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. It was just one of those moments where you realize you've really not been watching the progression of this PSG team over the course of the year. And yes, some of that is through buying players in the summer, like Neves and individuals like that. But they're a phenomenally coached team who are brilliant on the ball. And what I love about the way Enrique plays is that his team has a set style. They want the ball, but they can be comfortable for periods without it as well. And it's no disrespect to Arteta. The man is just more experienced, been at bigger clubs, been there, done it, and worn the t-shirt. And that is why that is one thing when Arsenal fans say we need a more experienced manager. I understand, because it's still going to take Arteta another 4, 5, 6 years to get to that level of experience as well. And that's and Arteta can't help that. He can't help how old he is and how long he's been. When you get into these football debates and you say to someone, how can you have an opinion on Giggs? You're only 17. You didn't watch him play. It's not their fault they're 17, but they probably should be debating Ryan Giggs. You can't help your age, yeah? So I just think that's one of those things where when it comes to the managers, Luis Enrique he is better. Doesn't mean Arteta didn't do a good job in certain areas of the game. And 3-1, PSG deserved to win. It wasn't the battering people expected it to be. If your players had, and again, Donnarumma made good saves, but someone challenged me in one of the comments yesterday saying Donnarumma made good saves, but better attackers might have scored those goals. And I thought you think about Trossard's chance and Martinelli's chance. And that's opposite side he plays on, but do you think Salah, if he was on his side, scores Martinelli's chance? Do you think Salah hits it a little bit more in the corner, a little bit more height and a little bit more pace, as an example? The answer is probably yes. So again, it goes back to that better player conversation. And I think Arsenal got their answers there, for me personally.
Definitely, I agree with you 100%. And I think as well, with it as well, when we talked about the tactical side of it, we play with 2 inverted fullbacks. Enrique beat us with 2 overlapping fullbacks. So a lot of the time, a lot of people always talk about how you need to keep up with the times and play inverted fullbacks and stuff like that. The problem that we had was the fact that our fullbacks were inverted, because Hakimi and Mendes, Hakimi gave us problems for the whole game. The reason Miles Lewis-Skelly had nightmares for the whole game because of their overlapping fullback. That was what the issue is. So when you say he was tactically better than Enrique, I'm trying to figure out, when you say he's tactically better, they had just as many chances, if not more than us, over the 2 legs. So I'm trying to figure out how they even missed the penalty.
He's tactically better. I said that he didn't get outclassed. Like, people are speaking as if Arteta got outclassed. I think it was a close game, and the tactics and everything that happened came down to individual brilliance.
It's not individual brilliance.
It didn't though. They were the first leg. They played way better football than we did. No.
This is the problem, Miguel, is like what annoys me about the Arsenal fan base, and not you, we're made so fair. I don't understand why you just can't accept that the manager was better, the team was better, they deserved to go through. Because if you look at halftime, all I was hearing, as in halftime in the leg, was Thomas Partey was out. With Thomas Partey back in, we will have that midfield, we'll dominate that midfield, and we'll be a lot better in the second leg. Yet it just can't be. The Arsenal fans don't seem to be able to accept the fact that the better team won and went through. I think the Real Madrid thing is just living too high in the memories.
One second. The better team did win, but it's not factually correct that they were better than us the whole time, and everything was. I'm
not saying 180 minutes they dominated you. That's not football.
I'm looking at the 2 games separately, and I'm saying to myself, over the 2 legs, PSG, yes, they deserve to go through. They're more clinical, but overall, the 2 games were very tight. It wasn't this landscaping result, 1-0 at our ground, where they destroyed us, and we were lucky to come out with 1-0. At the same time, at their ground, they were lucky that we didn't get a couple goals also. So it goes both ways. I think it's a lot closer, and because PSG won 3-1, it seems like it's a lot worse than it actually was. I think if this tie ended 2-1, that would have been a more fair result.
But
it doesn't matter what the result was.
They had like a small window.
I know, Wolfie, but I'm not sitting here saying they don't deserve to go through. I'm just simply saying the way people speak, the rhetoric around it is as if we were getting battered the whole time, every single game.
They were in control. That's the difference. They were in control of what they were doing. You don't need to batter a team to be in control of what you're doing. When we beat Liverpool at Anfield, you could say they battered us, but we were in control of the game plan.
No
and
need, Wolfie. No need.
Sorry.
More Wolfie, more of that, please. More.
But that's the thing. Like, we have lowest possession in the Premier League with 30% possession. That doesn't mean the team's battering us for 70% of the game. This is the thing. It's about control and game plan.
Wolfie, would you have expected Arteta to do more about the fullbacks then in the second leg? As Dee's just said, if he knows that you've got Hakimi flying down, like, let's take Inter Milan. Yeah. It's going to be another great example. Everyone see Dumfries against Barcelona, right? So you're going to have a really interesting battle with the fullbacks in both games. So Lewis-Skelly inverting all the time. What did Arsenal actually do to combat the likes of Hakimi and the width and the wide players? I would expect Arteta to come at that, which is Dee's alluding to, is that actually Enrique didn't really have to tactically tweak his game plan, and Arteta's gone with a little bit of.
And Josh, he didn't do anything crazy. He didn't do anything new to PSG. This was PSG's style. It's not like he came up with a new plan to beat, Arteta's tactics.
Miles Lewis-Skelly literally created the best chance Arsenal had over the 2 legs from midfield. in the first
The
leg.
question I would throw at you, Gal, before we go to the super chats, and I want to interact with the audience on this. I don't just want to ignore them. Do you feel Arteta did enough? I know you had a weak bench, but what did you make of him barely giving a young maverick like Ethan Nwaneri the opportunity? Yeah, over the 2 legs, he got 4 minutes of game time. Is that something where you look at your manager and say that was a risk that would have been? I mean, you're out now, so hindsight's lucrative and gives you 20/20 vision. That surely was a risk you should have taken.
Arteta trusts the people who gets him there, and he doesn't really make bold calls off the bench like that all the time. So that's just who he is as a manager. I think he should have made more bold calls, especially late in the game like that when we were trying to get a goal. But really and truly, that was a mistake on him. Fair play, for calling it out. I should have called that out earlier.
I mean, it's not for you to remember to call out everything. I was just asking as a general rule. There's got some of these super chats that have come in here. Oh, hang on. I'll get one of my first bits of cooking here. Hang on. Terry, keep glazing Arteta and that guy got him. He got no answer to the fact that Chelsea won the Champions League with Havertz and Werner. What a clown. So again, so look,
is he saying you're the clown or Arteta, Terry? Just for clarification.
I think that I'm the clown.
I mean, it'd be interesting if he's calling Mikel Arteta a clown, considering who he's representing with his name.
It was a point. It was a point. I thought I did address it because I spoke about I literally responded by saying it's not about this one game and this one Champions League, and of course, both of Chelsea's original Champions League winners had their like core that everybody is aware of. Terry didn't play in the game, but that core, that brilliant core, Drogba and Lampard. I understand that teams not as good as Arsenal have won Champions Leagues before, but at the same time, Super Mick Arteta, and that's me responding to the super chatter, not the real man, is this conversation isn't happening because Arsenal got knocked out of the Champions League semi-final to a very good PSG team in isolation. It's because barely any goals scored in any of their previous 6 semi-finals. It's because they haven't won a trophy in 5 years. So it's a wider overarching conversation that's been triggered by the events of the semi-final. The events of, again, if the title race was still on today, if the title race was going down to the last 3 games, the reaction to going out in this semi-final would be different. So I'm not saying that Arsenal have got a very good team and they need to improve on it and then they win things. And if you don't improve, you're never going to win anything. I'm talking by and large. Even with Chelsea, when they won that Champions League, great point. Every Chelsea fan worth their salt was saying the same thing then, and they're still saying it now 4 or 5 years later. That win still papered over cracks at the football club. They still needed better players. They haven't challenged for a league title since 2017, and that is your bread and butter. So again, Arsenal fans would love to win a Champions League. We'd all love to win a Champions League the way Chelsea did that year. But it isn't where the club was in that moment and where it's gone since and where it was the 3 or 4 years before it. You don't want that as well. You want to be challenging for your league title. You want better players at your team. You want to be more consistent in all competitions and winning those trophies. We want all those things as top clubs that spend hundreds of millions of pounds a year on salary and players. So it's not about glazing Arteta. I spoke about maybe needing to sack him. I've condemned a lot of the squad, saying they've got to be sold. I've agreed that there's some mentality issues. I've said they weren't the better team. I'm just sorry that I didn't use hurty words because I didn't swear. I didn't say Mikel Arteta's a fucking wanker. Maybe if I just said that, that's the analysis some people want. They want me to swear. I'm not going to equally, and I'll stand by this. Clip me up if you want. I'm not going to stand here and start calling Arsenal shit. A team that's second 3 years running in the Prem and in a Champions League semi is not shit. Equally, I'm not giving them the praise I've given City in the last 4 or 5 years. Best team in the world, one of the greatest European sides ever. They're not there yet. They're going to get there by better players and maybe improving the management. But what do I consider shit to be? This season, as an example, Man United and Tottenham. So again, language matters, and I'm not going to use the same language for Arsenal. Even and I'll get that. You're a United fan, though. Yes, but I'm also the host of the Football Terrace, and my job is to be non-partisan. And I can't call a team like Arsenal shit when there are other teams that are definitely shitter. Again, maybe I got to use extreme words for Man United. I don't know.
So, but Terry, would you see Europa League? If you win the Europa League, they're going to say you had a better season.
Trophy-wise, yes. But again, I don't look at football blindly in that way. I look at your league form as your bread and butter, and it's a much bigger indicator of where you are typically speaking, as a football club, which is also, again, I've been consistent. How many years did I say you're all fucking idiots for saying that Man United finished in a false second? They're only second because other people know we were second because we were the best team in the league that year. Like Nottingham Forest and Villa are not in a false position because Manchester United and Spurs, who typically in the Premier era have been more successful in league positions, they're not in a false position because we're bad. It's ridiculous. I just don't believe in any of that. Even any of that bullshit. So I'm not suddenly a Forest fan or a Villa fan. I'm just speaking the fucking truth. Sorry,
should
No,
think
but Terry,
about
so I
it.
have a question about. So, are you saying that Arsenal are unfortunate?
Sorry.
Are you saying that Arsenal are unfortunate in the last like couple of years that the other team, or like in this case it was Man City and now Liverpool, were just better than them? They already had a good team. Because what would you say about Leicester City? Because Leicester won with a way worse team.
Yeah, so that's why, and that's why I don't just assess how good a football team is based on one season either. So, for instance, say Forest next season get relegated and we don't see them for 10 years, then this campaign's been a flash in the pan. They maintain it next year, year after, then you start to look at them and go, they're genuinely one of the top 2, 3, 4, 5 teams in the Premier League. This season they have been, but there is still, and people ain't going to like hearing this, but it's the truth. Man United have a good summer. There's a legitimate chance with Gibbs White leaving that Man United finish higher next season than Nottingham Forest. We have seen hundreds of times, that's a lie because there's only been about 35 Premier League seasons. We've seen a number of times in the Premier League, sort of smaller sides historically or financially have really good seasons and next year they're nowhere near the same level. So you have to look at a body of work over a period of time. Is there an element of bad fortune that this very good Arsenal team was challenging for league titles against one of the greatest English sides that have ever played football in 130 years? Yes, there is an element of bad luck to Arsenal in that, but that isn't an excuse. There is still better football players they could buy, and there is still potentially better managers they could hire. So I think you have to be balanced when you have that view. You know,
Can I say one thing?
So for me, I call it the Andy Murray effect. Would Andy Murray have won more Grand Slams if he wasn't in the era with the 3 greatest tennis players of all time? He probably would have done. But at the end of the day, he doesn't have more Grand Slams than Sampras. And he can't be awarded them because he was up against better individuals. So, you know, there's a bit of bad luck, but that can't be the only excuse to protect Arsenal, in my opinion.
Would Klopp or would Klopp in today's era still get the 4 years Liverpool gave him back then? Would Sir Alex Ferguson still get the 6 years that you guys gave him back then in today's era? Because I feel like everything is so much more hyperbolic. And with social media, you immediately you're willing to say, you know what, if they don't win that Europa League, like Klopp didn't win the Europa League, didn't win the Champions League.
Arteta's had 5 or 6 now. So.
Fergie would be given the time, and Fergie would be given the time.
Klopp would have got the time as well.
Yeah, because you've got to remember the starting. But this is the thing about the conversation. You can't, for instance, if Arsenal fans say you sack Arteta tomorrow, you sack him, and then you go and get Luis Enrique from PSG. You can't go, right, he's got 5 years to win. He has to win straight away because he's walking into a different scenario. Berta has said this at your club. Berta has come in and said, well, I as a sporting director, I can't be like, well, let's plan for the future. He has to get Arsenal winning straight away because he's not joined a team lingering in 8th, no league title for a long time, no Champions League final at that semi-final or final for the better part of 2 decades. It's a different Arsenal now to 5 years ago. Again, when Fergie joined Man United, people don't understand how bad we were, how rotten we were as a football club. And often you go backwards before you go forward in life when you cut a piece off. So yes, if Man United now, we actually need to do something similar. We're in a very similar state and time is going to be needed to fix us. We don't have a broken midfield and need 2 new players. We have a broken football club. Inside to out, we are rotten. We don't need cosmetic surgery. We don't need some fucking veneers in Turkey, and I don't need a new hair transplant. We need a new heart. Our lungs are fucked. Our bladder's leaking. The prostate's in trouble. We're in bits, bruv. So you have to look at these circumstances. I know that like a lot of football fans like to have fun with what phase is Slot in. Slot is not in the.
He's in phase 5.
Well, if we're going to use Arsenal's phases, he took
He's in the
over
winning phase.
He took over in phase 5. It's a very, and Forrest, you'll know this, Wolfie, and I've done a bit, you know, you didn't get to where you are now because of this season. Your owner's been striving towards this since the takeover in 2017. It's been a steady approach. And you know this as well, Josh, with Villa, you're both in the same situation. This is why as well, when Arsenal fans go, can't get rid of Arteta because got to start again. No, you won't be starting again. He'll be picking up from where Arteta's left off. It's not starting again, in my view. But that's just me. This is more of these super chats, guys. Sorry. This here says Arteta and the board set the team back 5+ years with transfers. That's the harsh truth. And we're seeing. Do you feel Dibs? Do you feel Dibs is right? Do you think you're being set back 5 years by this season's transfers?
No, I don't. Of course not. Not 5 years. I think the Havertz transfer set us back a little bit, just because of the wage structure of it. 285 a week, I think, is a little bit much for you. Got to fit him into the team. But like I say, we've got in the attacking positions, we've still got to find 3 positions: a left winger, a striker, and an attacking midfielder that is consistent enough to that get us over the line. That's 3 positions out of 4 at a top club. That's too many. It's too many positions that we've got to find. I think that's more the issue. Like, he's a manager that's learning. We're not going to give him any grace for making mistakes, because people don't have time, and people are spending a lot of money as fans. That's what it comes down to. You spend a lot of money to follow this football club. You travel the world. Nothing's getting cheaper. So you have to make sure that you're winning now. No one cares about the sub story.
You know what the positive is? The positive is Andre Berta's coming in, Edu's gone. So that's some of the change that people are asking for, is the transfers. And that is definitely going to be directly in a direct improvement on transfers, hopefully.
Egal, the problem with that statement is that you're making almost it sound like you expect Liverpool, Man City, Chelsea to all stand still in the summer and just wait for Arsenal to have this transfer window and just, high jump their way past everyone else. It's never happening.
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying Arsenal internally have had issues with recruitment and the people running the recruitment. And if we improve that, that will improve our ability to get further above.
People say stuff like that, like what he does. Well,
exactly.
We don't know what Berta does. Like Berta's a guy that we see headlines about. We don't know anything what he does. We look at online and we see he signed a couple players and he had a couple arguments with Simeone. Like, we don't know anything about this guy. My point is, they would have said the same about Ashraf. Man United said the same about Ashraf.
No, but hear me out.
They said the same, and they realized he doesn't fit their club.
If you complain about Arsenal's transfer business or lack thereof, getting the correct targets that you deem should be the correct targets, bringing in another voice from outside of the club that has experience at the top level and has won trophies coming into the team should benefit the team at running their transfer business.
Would you agree that Arteta had to say in these transfers that came in?
Yeah, Terry's question was about this now. Like, we're saying, what do we believe it's been set back a few years from the signings that we've had now? That's the question. And the issue is Havertz signing has set us back because he has to play at 285 a week. This is £300,000 a week.
My point is, Edu leaving and Andre Berta coming in could improve our transfer business.
It doesn't change Havertz being in the team.
It doesn't, but what it does is it could potentially improve our transfer business going forward.
You've got to find a way of, more money's got to be spent. This is Terry. Can you please pull up transfer spend net? Well, we won't be doing net spend on the Football Terrace because we know net spend doesn't exist. Of all European clubs in the last 5 years, I don't have that information at hand.
Number one.
Hang on, I do have Premier League teams. I don't have all European teams, but since Arteta was appointed as the manager of Arsenal, in that time, looking at the traditional. Sorry, Josh and Wolfie, I don't mean to offend. Traditional top 6 in the Premier League. Liverpool spent 450 million. This is euros, 450 million euros. City have spent 579 million euros. Tottenham have spent 720 million euros. Arsenal, 697 million euros. Man United, 800 million euros. Chelsea 1.4 billion euros in that.
We got our money for Howard, so we're good.
Yeah. They got the money in there. So look, Arsenal have been in that time period they've been the 4th highest spender of the top 6 in that period. Tottenham's the maddest one for me. At least United have picked up a few. We've picked up trophies. Tottenham and Chelsea are the ones that obviously stand out the most because it's more than Arsenal, and they're nowhere near them. Wow, you've got Jordan Henderson on the panel. That must be towards Josh, I think. No, is it Josh or Wolfie? I'm just trying to work out which one I think.
Wolfie, I don't think it's Wolfie.
I don't think so either, and that's got to be Josh. Maybe it's the gal. Maybe I don't know. There's a normal service resume next season with Liverpool and City. I want to throw this to. It's more for rivals. I'm going to throw this to Tom Little. Do you see? We know Arteta's staying. Do you see Arsenal fighting for the title, being competitive in the Champions League next season?
It's going to depend on what striker they get in, and B, if this squad is mentally strong enough to handle the recourse from this summer, because this. I can only liken it to what I know about my club, and when we got close in 18-19 and we missed out on the league by a point, and everyone's Carlton said if we hadn't won the Champions League that year, that squad probably would have struggled to get back to that level, because just the weight of it and the fact that it's another go and we've missed out again, and eventually you start sitting there and going, are we ever going to do it? Is it ever going to happen here? I think in the manner that it's went for Arsenal in the past 3 seasons, with the near misses, with the close calls, I think this summer's going to be very interesting to see if they can mentally bounce back for a 4th time, or if it's just one too many. And I think that gets understated. Transfers are what they are, but I think it's going to come down to the mentality of that squad. I mean,
it makes sense.
You almost talk
but
about
the thing is, because of what Liverpool did,
you almost talk about us as if we're this fragile team that just. We're not that.
Gal, at no point have I called you fragile, but at this point, it's 3 years on the bounce where you've had near misses in heartbreaking ways.
And in those 3 years, I do think there's been some catastrophic defeats to Man City, but recently it's been small margins that led to us losing the league last year.
That's what he's talking about. He's talking about at the top level that there's a very small margins to be able to get over. He's not saying we're top 4 contenders. He's talking about winning trophies.
Yeah.
And the difference between winning trophies
and to talk about what Tom Little just said is that after what Liverpool did, okay, it is going to be difficult for Arsenal now because of the fact that the teams around your City, your Chelsea, your Newcastle and Villa, they're all going to, because they know that, okay, if these guys can do it, and Forest, Wolfie, and Forest, they're all going to put that pressure, and they say that it's possible and they want to stay there, right? So Arsenal, it's not going to be as, and I'm not saying it was simple in the last 2 years when you were like second, but it's not going to be even as easy as that, or how simple that was. It's going to be.
I don't know how D sees it, but I think the way that I see it, and some of the players and maybe the managers see it, is Arsenal are so close, and the reason why we've fallen short this season is A, B, or C. And going into the summer, if we go and get those forwards, I don't think there will be the same mentality issues. I think defensively we're solid, midfield we're quite solid. We're literally missing one part of the game.
But you were saying this last summer, Gal.
You didn't address it.
Guys. I've got a lot of super chats to do, and we've got other subjects to get onto, and otherwise we're never going to get to the end of the show. There's massive European semi-finals tonight that I know you're all tuning into as well. Let me just do the next super chat here. This says that if Arteta was at a bigger, more serious club in Europe, he would have been sacked already after 5 trophyless seasons. Do you agree with that, Wolfie?
Yeah, hell no. I think 2. I wouldn't go as far as 5. Yeah.
Arteta would have done a treble with Bayern or Real Madrid. Like, this guy's an absolute genius when it comes to it's just we don't have the players. We don't have
players. Oh no, yeah. But last summer you were fine with the squad.
If you gave Arteta Barcelona, Real Madrid, Bayern Munich, he's not going trophyless. He's winning.
Wait, Gal, in the summer,
you know how I know? Arteta's a better manager than Company. Company just won the league with Bayern. You don't think Arteta?
We're not talking about Company. We're talking. You just said you said PSG.
I'm giving an example because people keep talking about Arteta and they compare him to other. Say he was at another club. Arsenal, the start point was so low. If he went to a club where the start point was win the league now, best believe he could do it.
Why did you say you were going to win the league this season? Because you were complaining about the strikers and stuff.
Because I believe that the manager could get better from the squad than what he currently has been.
So the squad was fine, but 2 minutes ago you're saying the squad isn't strong enough.
Squad got depleted, and then it became a situation where it was untenable to continue to try to think you could win this with this team.
Can we just?
Okay, so
I think no one's actually
pick up injuries.
Hey, I don't know about you guys, but if Company can go walk into Bayern and win the league, if all these guys,
that's a bad example. That's a terrible example.
No, it's a perfect example.
He got battered in Europe. No. He got battered in Europe. It's like going to Celtic and Rangers example. When you go to Germany, Bayer Leverkusen won the league the first time in 10 years or something like that. It was an absolute anomaly. It showed how good Xabi Alonso is. Being Bayern Munich manager is almost a given right to win the league. What Company had to do was show what his worth was in Europe. He got battered in Europe and got outclassed and didn't progress in the way he did.
Yeah.
And I think the big point I've sat here, no one's actually mentioned about
Why are
it.
you bringing up
What
Bayern
if,
who
hold on,
got battered in Europe?
don't come up, one sec. What if Arsenal finish third? The season's not done yet. There's a massive probability that Arsenal
Josh, they could
finish third.
finish 6th.
At this point, does it really matter if you finish third or second? Does it matter?
It does.
There you go. You can finish
I'm
6th.
listening to your point. I'm listening to your points here about the progression of Mikel Arteta. And again, we talk about the super chat that just came in. If you go 5 years trophyless, well, if you've been the nearly men and the coming close to challenging, and then predominantly you actually finish third this season, the image on Mikel Arteta's name, that how can you even go into next season? And my point is then, if you finish third, this may sound controversial. I don't even think Arsenal finish in the top 3 next season if Arteta gets another year. I think that I actually think the trajectory is now maybe going to show. And I actually probably would say, as crazy as this is, did Man United have a good summer? I prefer Ruben Amorim to do something better at Man United and recruit better.
Yeah, you're getting
Maybe
getting carried away.
I genuinely believe this, and we talk about mentality. I'm just trying to stick to like the points that have come up in this show today, right? And talk about mentality. If Ruben Amorim goes and wins a Europa League and builds that mentality of that Manchester United squad coming in and doing that, and then Mikel Arteta failing to win another trophy and his recruitment doesn't go well, talk to me about mentality. I know which camp I'd rather be in.
When your team week in, week out is showing a level of consistency to stay up there at the top of the table
and finish third potentially. And finish third, one less place than last year.
There's a difference between getting a cup run and being great in a cup run. Fair play. They've done that a couple of years in a row now, Manchester United. But if they go and get battered by Brentford on the weekend, but yet they win the Europa League, it's not the same level of mentality.
If you drop out of the top 5, Figal, what's their mentality there?
You've been caring about the Champions League and not the Premier League.
That's a terrible example.
Whoa. Wait, you beating Liverpool this weekend?
I'm not even talking about Liverpool. I'm just saying we're not dropping out of the top 5.
Well, hold on. You've got Liverpool then Newcastle. Are you winning those 2 games?
I don't know what's going to happen in those 2 games. All I can tell you is we're not dropping out of top 5. The teams below us are just too inconsistent to think they're all going to catch up to us.
You're not consistent at the moment in the league.
Yeah,
because Arteta can't focus on 2 competitions. Let's be real.
True. That's not true.
We've won 1 in 5. We've won 1 in 5, but I think
we won 1 in 5 because we're focused on the Champions League.
If you don't win the next 2 games, if you lose those 2 games, I mean, your insurance policy is Southampton away, but there is a possibility. I don't expect it to happen. There's a possibility if you lose the next 2 games, you could end up out of.
But Newcastle got Chelsea. Though,
it's rich coming from you.
It doesn't matter.
It's rich coming from you who's bottled their position in comfortable position.
We're still fine. It's in our hands, Habibi. We're still fine.
Hey, you know what's gonna happen? The team that's most likely to drop out of the top 4 right now is you 2, Aston Villa.
We've got Leicester and West Ham. You've got Liverpool and Newcastle.
About title races, and now come Mark. They're doing. Oh, you already got the Champions League spots before us, and Nottingham Forest.
Arsenal also don't have no pressure on us. We have a point gap, and we're chilling. We could lose.
Just don't lose your next 2 games, Agal. Don't lose your next 2 games.
Terry, at this moment, I want to say something as soon as they've done.
Honestly, it doesn't mean anything because we could lose our next 2 games and still beat Southampton and get comfortable Champions League football. You guys have to win all your games.
Comfortable.
Yeah.
Comfortable.
That will be, in fairness, listen, I'm all for it. Arsenal lose your next 2. Imagine we go into the final day of the season and there's literally 6 teams fighting for 4 places.
How's your record away at Southampton again?
Doesn't matter. It's Southampton.
Doesn't matter.
I mean, the comment here says, calling Arteta a genius is delusional. Igao is living in a different reality.
You know what?
To listen to
people don't realize somebody's a genius. They call them idiots all the time. In history, go back. They call the greatest geniuses idiots.
They call them madmen. They call it madness.
Madmen. And Arteta, they call Arteta madman all the time. But hey, unfortunately, I gotta go. Love guys.
I just think Arteta thought it would be easier than it actually is. That's what I think. I think he thought it'd be easier to win the league and win.
Give me 5 minutes, Eagle. I just want to sing something out to you guys, the Arsenal fans, before you go. Okay, just like Terry, if you would let me.
Yeah, if you want to sing.
Okay, let's go. Wait 1 second.
Comes
Because I don't.
copyright strike.
I thought he was
no,
more.
no.
I thought he was more prepared than that. I thought it'd start straight away.
No. Yeah.
Arsenal
Are not winning anything. Do. 700 million down drain. Do. Teta thought he'd win it all, but he forgot they changed the ball. Arsenal are not winning anything. Nothing at all. Ooh. Sorry about my voice.
It took me a while to
Just
figure out
say
what song you were
Champions of
singing. It took me a
Europe,
while
you'll
to
never
figure out what
sing
song you
that.
were singing. Oh, you're singing Bruno Mars. I
Bruno
was thinking,
Mars.
like, what song is that?
Yeah.
Sorry about my voice, but I just had to get it out.
Yeah, the singing voice the off key here. This was actually to Igal. He's just gone. He says Igal, Barca is the younger team than Arsenal with little to no money, and they are close to winning the double. Arteta wouldn't do what Flick has done. Question for you all, like objectively speaking. I agree with what you guys said. When you're the Bayern manager, PSG do this as well because of how much easy they win their league. Real Madrid to a certain degree as well. Those clubs, they really do judge you on what you do in Europe. But do you think if Arteta was the manager of those teams, he'd have won? You know, if he was a Barca manager, could he win league titles? Is he better than Xavi, as an example? Is he of that level? He surely would have won league titles, Arteta, if he was the manager of Bayern Munich and PSG. Surely we all know he's good enough for that, right? I mean, that's just doesn't even need debating.
I think Josh nailed it. I mean, you may as well throw Celtic or Rangers in there if you're going to do that debate. Yeah.
No, I agree.
But
So
not just them. I
compare
think
to
if you went
Southgate.
lower, I think if you went lower down the league, because obviously the Premier League's got top managers all lower down the league. They take lower level clubs just to get into the Premier League. If you go to Areola and Glasgow and all these and Ursula, they'd probably win it as well.
I do agree. I think if you just take I think to win the French league with PSG, as long as you're good, you'll do it. If you're there for a couple of years and you're good, I think you'll do it. Very similar in Germany as well. As long as you're a good to very good manager, I think you do it. But I think La Liga is probably a little different. But even then, when I say La Liga is different, Real Madrid, yes, and you do get other good Spanish teams. But if you just look historically, it's only 2 teams that ever challenge. Like it is different in England. To be fair, it just does feel different.
I'd ask you this: say Man City basically were looking for a new manager, and Mikel Arteta do you think Mikel Arteta would win the league with Manchester City? Because that's the sort of retort I'm looking at as a level of manager. I know it's all hypothetical, but I use this with Gareth Southgate constantly when people were hyping him up for England. Why does this man never get linked to a top job? He's a near man. He's again, very similar, I feel like, with Arteta. Would Arteta go into Manchester City as this coach that Igal has sort of talked about today? And would he be someone who picks up silverware? Would you trust him to go and do that job? For me, it's a no. I don't think Arteta would win the league with Man City again within 2-3 seasons either.
Josh, let me flip that question as well. Would Pep or Slots or Klopp win the league with the Arsenal squad?
Pep wouldn't have done. There wasn't enough technical ability. Pep wouldn't. The technical floor isn't good enough. Klopp could have won. I think if you go back to the season, you go back to the season 2 years ago, Klopp wins the league from that position because he's a better manager. Pep, on the other hand,
I didn't think Pep could win it.
No, the reason I doubt Pep is we've seen Pep this season when he hasn't got all the right tools. I would doubt that he could go to a team that isn't complete and win the league or near to complete. I don't. Especially now in his career, Pep. I don't know if he could do that. We saw it City.
But Pep won the league without a named striker. He had Aguero.
Yeah, but that doesn't take away from the point, which was Man City needs a very technical squad. When Pep, because this season Pep's team has struggled when it comes to the technical side of the game more so than ever, because certain players have been missing. Don't get me wrong, there's been a physical problem in terms of the midfield's been very old. Therefore, in certain games, they get overrun. But technically, this is probably the lowest technical quality City side I've seen in a while. And therefore, when you look at them try and play,
not technical enough for Pep.
I don't think that Arsenal team from 2 years ago, the year that they were playing the nice football, this season's again, it's the injury side of it that they like to bring up. I just think that Arsenal team needed
Fergie would. Fergie would have won it with this team.
If you're going through historical managers, I think Fergie would have done it. I think Mourinho would have done. The Mourinho that was
Mourinho,
first time at Chelsea.
I don't think Wenger would. I think certain. The thing is with Pep, and I don't even mean this as a dig. It's not a dig. He's such an elite level manager, but his style of football and how he plays relies on. You just think about how good KDB is as a chance creator, and how many times he's sort of got them over the line. They have 2, 3, 4 of them in those title winning teams at City. Arsenal basically have Saka. I just don't think, it's making match winners out of them. And maybe I'm disrespecting Pep. I don't feel like I am. I don't know. Something about, maybe it's this season. Maybe this season's throwing me off. Maybe this season.
Yeah, it definitely has. It definitely has.
Maybe this season's throwing me a little bit there.
Terry, I need to go as well. I just want to big up the panel. Like, thank you for having me. But I will be on next whenever you need me here. Okay, thank you so much, guys. Have a nice one.
Bro. Thank you very much, man.
That did come to my point, Terry. Sorry, it was just that if you're going to, we talk about Germany, sort of a 2-tier team league, France, etc. When you want to judge maybe a manager on his ability and where they're at, if we're talking about Premier League being a very competitive league and one of the top leagues, does Arteta do a job in another club and win a trophy? And if the answer's no, and no one has faith in Arteta doing that, then ultimately that argument's close for me about, would he go, what's his level? Is he actually good enough?
Don't forget he has won a trophy. You keep saying that, but he has won one.
Emirates trophy.
But that means take that one out of the way.
That means slots one's
let's go league then. Yeah, but let's go league. Let's go Premier League then. Let's just go straight to the cut and mustard of it. Will I ever see Arteta win a Premier League, or would a club entrust Mikel Arteta to win a Premier League? I just don't feel like, again, I just don't feel like the mentality and the drop off from last season, where they were in front, where they haven't closed the gap on Liverpool this season. As a club, when I'm hiring him, I'm looking going, does this guy know how to manage a 38-game season? Does he know how to deal with the difficult scenarios and situations to do the hardest thing, which is win the Premier League? I think the answer is no.
It's a very fair question. By the way, I think I misspoke when I said Wenger wouldn't. I meant Wenger would. People in the comments said I said Wenger wouldn't. I must have misspoke. Sorry, I apologize. I think he would have done because he didn't always have the best squads. This year says, as a Chelsea fan, thinking Arteta can win things is far less moronic than thinking he's a shit coach. Topic is a litmus test for basic. I do agree. I do agree with this. I think I get Arsenal fans that are angry, that are lashing out. He's not a shit coach. I think he's much more closer. This is probably the best super chat of the day. He is far closer to winning something than he is being a shit manager. I think that's absolutely fair.
But no one's saying that.
No, I know no one on this panel is. I think this is more broadly where people are, got to sack him. He's crap. No, I don't think he's crap. That's very, very true. But equally, your point about going to a bigger club, maybe going to somewhere like a Bayern Munich, humbles you in the sense of you walk into a club that historic and big. I don't know if you can have that kind of ego. I think that the hierarchy at the club tone it right there, because you're saying that ego is the mentality issues that don't get you over the line. Maybe there's that potential that you go there and you're a big fish, but in the giant ocean, and that's maybe the difference when you take a step up. But no, as you say, it's a great question. Wenger and Pep would win with 1 billion in 6 years. Well, they haven't spent 1 billion, but yeah, they're close to it. But let's not forget that the managers back in the 90s and the noughties spent a lot of money as well. It's just there wasn't as much money in football. Football inflation is, since the 90s, has grown by nearly 500%. So we have to be very mindful when we say, oh, my manager's record signing was 20 million. Those 20 million signings are now the equivalent of 150 million now. So we need to be very mindful when we say that.
Different.
I always hate when people go, how can Gibbs White cost 50 million when Zidane only got sold for that? Yeah, but the ignoring of inflation has always been a real peeve of mine. I think Arteta is losing respect in the world of football by telling blatant lies about the PSG bench, telling him Arsenal were the better side. I mean, is there any proof? I mean, Unai Emery didn't say he lied. Unai Emery. Enrique didn't say he lied. Enrique said, I disagree with his opinion. Again, I think it's really plausible that a respectful person on PSG's team shook his hand and said, yeah, man, look, well done. You guys are the better team. It's just sporting. People do things like that in sport all the time.
I think you absolutely, like, I have it in my under 14s. If we've tonked a team, I'm not going to go across to the other manager and say to him, "You need to tell those kids to start playing football, mate."
Give
Do
up.
you know what I mean? You're going to encourage them, so it's just respectful. I think it's another
I
sign
don't
of
even know if it even matters.
yeah.
Like,
It's like
I don't even know if it even matters. I think
I just
saying
think
it,
it's when he said it and the manner in which it's been said, and the fact that Arsenal just went out and he's coming out and saying, "Oh, I think we were the better team." He's told me we were the better team. He's told me we were the better team. We were the better team, and everyone's sort of going. It just comes across.
it's almost like saying it's not fair. We should have gone through. You know,
when
that's
we
the
weren't
kind of
we
narrative.
definitely weren't the better team though. That's what it comes down to. But I do think he's a top class manager though.
I used to fight. I used to karate points and kickboxing points fighting, and I did a bit of full contact with points fighting. And I was a good level fighter. And I remember I was at it was the French Open I was at, and I beat a guy, and he was losing his mind a little bit. I was only about 16, 17. He was losing his mind, and sort of at the end we shake hands and everything. I said to him, I said, "Oh, you listen, I was really lucky. I caught you with a couple of lucky shots." I didn't believe what I was saying. I was just trying to make him feel better and calm him down. So again, it's a sporting thing, and what is Arteta shouldn't have said it. And he's probably broken a little bit of, I don't know, the unwritten rules. You know, in tennis, when someone hits a shot and it hits the net, you say
sorry.
And they say sorry. That's like it's an unwritten rule in tennis.
Yeah.
I feel like Arteta maybe has broken an unwritten rule. When someone says something like that, you probably keep it to yourself in that regard. But
you don't mean it. On match point at the Wimbledon final, you don't mean it, do you?
Don't you think it could be sorry, don't you think it could be though? And this maybe sound really cynical of me. And maybe people think I'm being quite cynical on Arteta, but you know, I think that it's maybe a reflection of his personality, that how he's always been told by the Arsenal hierarchy, "Oh, it's okay, Mikel, you're amazing. Oh, Mikel, you are developing us. Oh, Mikel, you have taken this team forward." I think he's the type of guy, I'll be honest, it's how it comes across. Because if that's the first thing that's come out of his mind to say after a press conference where the other team said we're the best, it's like that validation of needing to tell him needing validation to being told how good of a job he's doing all the time. Is a man who's under pressure, by the way. He's a man who's actually he's reflective. I think that is a real sign of Arteta's personality. We talk about these all or nothing things or whatever. For him to actually say that, the more we think about it, this man constantly needs that reassurance. And there's no coincidence, maybe, that we'll hear Edu potentially unveil all about Arteta. I think that is going to come clear. But that shows me that
that bleeds as well into the fan base. After they beat Real Madrid, me and you, how many times were we asked to validate that performance by the Arsenal fans? So it starts from within and it goes down.
Validation thing though is funny, right? Because I think as YouTubers, I think we all have an element of a validation requirement within us to certain different levels, right? All of us, I'm gonna look at all your faces while I say this rather than talk at the camera. When you put a point out there and you see the audience go, "Facts, I agree," we all go, look, that's nice. we all like it, right? So I think there's a validation element in all of us. But what I find, and people always get annoyed at me, like, why do you call out Arsenal's haters? Are allowed to hate them. I love people just completely, I've said it on 100 videos. I love watching, because Arsenal are the only team that I've ever seen have haters, and they're rightfully allowed to be haters, who pretend that they don't hate Arsenal and that Arsenal are irrelevant. And it becomes this battle, or you said, Wolfie, of validation. It's, I need to be right that they're crap and shit and never going to win. And I'll be honest with you, I make content about it because it's hilarious for me watching. Like, Liverpool fans have literally spent the last 2 weeks going, "We don't care about Arsenal, not rivals." They were the biggest fan channels and fan accounts last night, sharing all the clips and memes, which they're allowed to do. But what I enjoy is but I thought you weren't bothered. For me, it's amazing. Don't stop. It's brilliant. And
definitely.
I think there's a validation element in so much of this on both sides, by the way. And a lot of people just want to be right, and that's fine. You're allowed to think like that. But if you're not, you're gonna get like last night. The Arteta outers, they had their night. They had their moment. One of them a cuck on the show, right? And I have to say, like, I thought he called him a cock. And then I re-listened to it. He said cuck. And I was like, no, I kind of got why he called him a cuck, because they'd just been knocked out and he was smiling and joining in with the Chelsea fans ripping into Arsenal. And I thought, I know you're Arteta out, but that's a weird reaction. Like, I couldn't, but listen, the football fan space is an interesting one. This year says it was easier to beat Arsenal. That's why they called them the better team. Potentially, very potentially. 2 or 1 coaches or players. That's not the bench. 1, 2. Yeah, again, Dan, you make a good point. Again, I wouldn't be overly pedantic with what he said, if that makes sense. You know, it's maybe it was one person he shouldn't have said the bench, but I can understand why he would say the bench because maybe he doesn't want to name the person. Maybe he could have said a coach. I don't know, but he should have said nothing, in my opinion. No one is saying that. Wolfie, you know damn well who is. Oh, about he's a shit manager.
Arteta, yeah.
Wenger and Pep. Already done that super chat. Sorry, gents. Igal, who's the players you would sign to help Arteta? I mean, he's not here to answer it, but I think D. Are there any? Are you excited about the players you're linked to this summer, or are you not too worried?
Yeah, you know, I'm excited about those players, but I think there's a few players that are simple Premier League ready players that you have to spend money to get. So yeah, of course you want Jokeris and that, but you can go and buy the Semenyos, you can go and buy the Kudoses, but you're never going to get Bowen. But those type of players we just have to go and get. We can't look at. Like, I'm not really a fan of always looking outside of the league all the time and thinking that the name is. I'm not really a fan of that. I like what I know. I'm one of those guys, and I feel like
I'm the same, bruv. I have the same drink and mixer every Friday night. So no,
yes, bruv. I like what I know. I'll stick to this all night. I know where I'm going with it. I know how drunk I'm gonna get. I'll get home.
How the headache feels, the hangover. I don't know pink gin with some weird lemonade.
Yeah, it's not what I'm saying. Yeah, I'm not on all that. I like what I know. So.
No, I'm similar, mate. Abraham says under Emery, Arsenal finished 5th, 5th, and were in 10th. Arteta 8th, 8th, 5th, 2nd.
Did
Emery
get 2.5 seasons?
I don't know. 2 and a bit, weren't it? They got 2 and a bit.
Yeah, he was there for a while.
I thought you only got 1 and a bit.
It must have been 2 and a bit, I think.
He got 18-19 when he came 5th and lost the Europa League final. Then he was sacked in 19-20.
He only got 1 and a bit years.
No, he didn't.
Did he get 17-18 as well?
Lumber came in after that. Yeah, he had longer.
I don't know.
I could swear Unai only had 1.5.
You could be very right. I don't know. I'm just going by the super chat. He came in May 2018, so it must have been 18 months. Yeah, it has to have been.
Which extenuates the point of this weird narrative that Arsenal fans have about Unai Emery. They really give the player a hard time, and I don't understand it, and that's what I always try and get my head around.
I hear that. Yeah, 1.5 seasons he had basically at the club. In terms of top 4, I know they were saying Arsenal are going to fall out. Very, very unlikely due to they've probably got just enough points for that to become unrealistic. Who do we think is going to make the Champions League spots next year? Obviously, Villa and Forest not had the best of results recently in the league. Some good, some bad. Who do you think is going to make it? Honestly,
I think we're in pole position. If you ask me honestly, I think we got the best fixtures. Obviously, taking Man City out of account, I think Man City are done. I'm talking Newcastle, Forest, Chelsea, and Villa. This game this weekend between Chelsea and Newcastle is astronomically huge. And I think you've got Bournemouth on Friday, haven't you, Josh? If I'm not mistaken,
Saturday evening, 5:30.
Yeah. For me, Villa have to go flawless to get in. They can't even draw with Bournemouth. I think you win your next 2 games. Therefore, I think this Bournemouth one is your decider because you've got Spurs and United coming up. If Chelsea win this one, it becomes more favourable for Forest, in my opinion, than Newcastle winning it. And Chelsea, with Lavia back in the team, look sensational. I think he's such an underrated player. I think he's been brilliant for them since he's been back. Will he stay fit? That's another question. But if Chelsea win it, I think it ends up being Chelsea, Forest, and who's the other one? Man City. Yeah. People
say that, but Liverpool only they weren't even playing properly, man. Let's be serious.
Yeah,
are they gonna roll over?
They weren't even playing properly.
Did the team we put out there? Endo got his first start of the season.
No, I'm not just saying that, but you built momentum for them. Confidence and momentum at this stage of the season is very key. Newcastle drawing with Brighton for me is a big 2 points drop. I know they haven't. I don't think they've taken a point from Brighton away from home in the Premier League. But it's it's just such a key match this weekend. Huge. Because if Chelsea win, there's a scenario where Forest and Chelsea play out a draw on the final day of the season and both qualify. That's the thing. I think we know a lot more come Monday morning.
I think me and D want you to do it because it's the only way Isak might move this summer is if Newcastle don't get it done. Like, I'm sitting here going, you know what? As much as I think Newcastle will get the job done, I could kind of do with Forest or Villa.
Yeah.
I don't want to be left signing Sesko.
Oh, mate.
So I personally think I think Forest miss out. I do. I think that
with you.
I think Forest have hit a really rough patch at a really wrong time, Wolfie. And we talk about momentum and confidence. And I know I think if it was at the King Power, I'd be very much more inclined to say, do you know what, Leicester City could beat Forest, at the way you're playing and the nerves around it. But I'm still not disregarding Leicester City rocking up to your gaff and get something. I know it's a thing, but the reason why I feel that is I just feel like there is this pressure and narrative that Forest are having to face for the first time, which is basically this whole scenario of you've been in dream world, you've been in that pole position, and you're still saying it is in your hands, which I get, but you're in that pole position where you've been so comfortable, and the players have almost had that, like, when things are just too good to be true, you don't even think about what's going on. All of a sudden, they've been snapped into reality the last couple of games, going, guys, you do realise that you still haven't quite got over the line yet. Champions League isn't a given, and that's put on there. I think, as you said, I'm quite glad that we've got Man United and Tottenham as our last two games, and it is all on Bournemouth for me on Saturday. If we go and win against Bournemouth on Saturday, I'll be pumping the chest for that. But Chelsea was the one I had written off. But I think Chelsea have hit form. Sort of swap with you. You've gone on the sour patch, and Chelsea have hit form just at the right time. Potentially. But I think we still get top 5, which gives us Champions League football.
So who's missing out with Forest in your books?
I've been banging the drum that Villa finish above Chelsea all season. I can't change that narrative. And that Liverpool game really did cost my prediction. But yeah, I think I want City and Newcastle I want Newcastle to beat Chelsea, Newcastle run away with it, and Chelsea drop points for
the Newcastle's fixtures, man. They're not easy. They've got Chelsea, then Arsenal away, Everton at home. You'd expect them to win. I would agree with you. If Forest don't get 6 points in the next 2 games, then they don't deserve it, because we've got 2 of the. You couldn't, apart from Spurs, you couldn't handpick.
On paper, Forest should do it. The issue what I love, it's not an issue. What I love about the Champions League position race is that Chelsea are their performances for 2 months, 3 months were nowhere near good enough to create the form to do it. They've turned it round in the last 3 games, as an example. You've got Forest, who looked a certainty 3 or 4 weeks ago. They look nervous. Villa, it's one good game, then a bad one. City look like they're going to absolutely do it. Even with Newcastle, though, they 1 minute they've looked brilliant, and then they look a little bit like they're off the boil again right now. I love it. I honestly can't quite, barring City, I can't quite call it. I genuinely don't have. I say one thing and I go, I could go the other way though, and I love it. It's so unpredictable. It's going to be amazing. The one thing I would say is Man United are going to play an important part, and what I mean by that is that if we get through tonight, whoever's playing us, you're not going to be playing. You're not going to be playing overly strong teams, because our finals only in under 2 weeks' time. So it's not like our finals after the season ends. So Chelsea are going to play us on a Friday, which is 5 days before our potential final. There is just no. We will play some of our players because they won't go 2 weeks without kicking the ball, because that'd be stupid. But there isn't going to be the intensity in the game. So I think that's an absolute W for them. I think Villa play us as well. And that's, I think,
we play after.
But at the same time, we're either going to be bummed out and deflated or
drunk.
It's going to be one of the 2 things. So, and again, our final 2 games of the season become absolutely inconsequential.
Same for Spurs as well, though. The Spurs get through.
Same, but is anyone playing Spurs?
I think not the Forest.
We are. We play them on the Friday. The 16th.
Villa have Tottenham and then United back to back.
And that's it. Spurs are going to be resting for that game. And then again, Man United and Spurs after that final, if we're both in it, those games afterwards are two of the most inconsequential games in our club's history. Whether we've won the final or lost it, winning or losing them makes no difference. And we are not. I just don't see us going into those games with any level of appetite to win at all. So I think they're both wins for Villa almost off the bat.
Yeah, Terry, that's why I said this weekend is so key, because Bournemouth is still playing for Conference League. I think they're in 8th right now with a couple of teams sniffing at them. This is away at Bournemouth. It can be a trigger. Trust me, I know about it. But if Villa win this, then Villa are in with a real shout. But Villa's current max point tally is 69, which is a net 68 with their goal difference, technically speaking. If they even draw, that brings you down to what, 66 technically. Sorry?
What's like net 68 mean? I just thought they'd end up on 69.
Goal difference, as in I'm giving it a point, if you see what I mean.
Oh.
So,
yeah.
So they'd be on 69. Do you get me? So it's because of the goal difference is so low.
Point,
I mean, I'm sure you two are running through all the permutations because your team's doing it. I just want the ideal scenario: Chelsea 7th, Newcastle 6th.
Say that again.
I don't really care about the rest. It can be not Forest 5th, Villa 5th. I don't really care. I just need them
to
out
again.
top 5.
Tom, tell them again, bro. Tell them again, my guy.
If you want that scenario, then Arsenal and Chelsea could both miss out.
And Liverpool should have beat Chelsea first.
No,
for my scenario to come in, I need.
Oh, you want Isak? You want Isak?
I need
yeah. But Man United and Tottenham being in the Europa League final, that's probably be the biggest game of the season, because that will be whoever doesn't win that has had the worst season that you've ever had.
Do you think there could be any mishaps tonight? Obviously, United 3-0 up, but the three main
not with United, more so with Tottenham. Not
have you seen Bodo Glimt? Have you seen them against Lazio? So the reason why I've sort of invested in Bodo Glimt is I have a bit of money on Bodo against Lazio at home, and watch him. Bodo Glimt is a record at home in this competition is unbelievable. And second of all, do you see the conditions they play in? It's like it was snowing against Lazio. It was like snowing.
5 players missing as well. They've got 3 of them back, haven't they?
Yeah, it was snowing, and I was looking at it going, this is not a given for Spurs. When it's 3-0, I thought done. As soon as Bodo got that goal, I thought, do you know what? It's not a given. And
I don't care as long as Man U don't win it, bro.
From a Villa perspective, they
will win it. Wolfie. They're going to win it.
They're going to scumbag it. They're going to, like they did last year.
They were always going to. Once they had that thing with Leon, they were always going to win it.
Hang on. I know I'm an Arsenal fan, right? But I'm going to defend my club, Man United, for a moment. We didn't scumbag it. We've been very good in Europe this year.
Not against Leon, you.
No. The way you qualified last year, you should. I know you.
Hang on. By winning a trophy and deserving it.
I'm just saying, that VAR decision against Coventry.
Big moment.
Newcastle out of the
semi-finals in FA Cup history just by offside.
Exactly. And they'll do the same this year. Yeah.
I mean, it was offside though, wasn't it? What are we doing here? Man United would be the only team in the Champions League from England next year, barring Liverpool, if we win the Europa League, to have been in it by winning a trophy and being a champion. The rest of you, are picking up the Arsene Wenger Cup you all used to slag off. Come on.
My team's won it by winning the league and being proper champions.
That's
on a side note about Spurs.
Man United in 19.
Yeah, and I'll give you that one. Yeah. And Villa.
Our treble winning year we weren't. Our treble winning year we were the second place team actually.
There you go.
We were. If any of your teams have won it before the 90s, you were definitely champions when you won it because you couldn't go into it otherwise.
Yeah, winner.
Bodo Glimt. Listen, I don't want to play Spurs in the final. I'm not even going to lie. As much as we should be.
Why not?
Because it's
you'll beat Spurs. You'll beat Spurs.
Your fear is not, Tottenham might do it. Your fear is we cannot be the team that lose to Tottenham in the final.
No, I think it's a Premier League team. It's a Premier League thing, isn't it?
Premier League, but it's also Tottenham. I look at it, both of those things are true. I look at it this way, Tom. Me and you, like on a rule, and this isn't meant no kind of weird flex. Do you fancy yourself in a fight with me? Do you fancy your chances?
No chance. Okay, no chance.
Right, so I agree. I would be more nervous fighting you than a decent fighter on camera on some YouTube fight show. Do you know why? If I get beat by another really good fighter, there's honor in that. If you catch me with a lucky punch and you knock me out, that's how I view Spurs. Like getting beat by them in a final, they have that. And you know what Spurs fans are like? One of their players can do a step over and they dine out on that for 5 years. Imagine they win a European final against my team or your teams in future. Oh, I'd rather be beat by
You don't want Spurs. You don't want
So
Spurs.
you've got the exact
Liverpool
same
do.
fear
You
I
do.
had going into that Champions League final. You're going into it going, we should beat Spurs. They're crap. But if we lose to Spurs, there might be no coming back from this.
No, it's crazy, man. It's crazy. Look, I want to thank every single person who has tuned into the show today. Please hit the like button before you go if you haven't done so already. This is going to redirect you to Hassam's hate along for the Manchester United and Tottenham games this evening. So go and support my brother over there. I want to thank all of our panelists tonight. I know that Andrew and Igal have already gone, but I want a big shout out to Wolfie, Josh, Tom Little, and Dee for making his debut today on the show. Until next time, everybody, look after yourselves, take care, and we'll see you all again soon.